Hey there, this is Natalie, back with more of the best stories from Reddit. Please give this video a like and gently caress the subscribe button if you enjoy these videos, and I'll keep them coming for you every day. Now here's a story that promises a little bit of drama, as the title is DNA confirmed that I, 39 male, have a daughter, 18 female. What now? And this is a fully updated story with a conclusion. And OP begins. And yeah, I feel just as you would imagine, but it gets worse. She lives in the US. I'm in Europe. I don't know how to do this, and I really need advice. So what happened is that months ago, I got a call from a US number. I didn't answer since I don't know anyone there. Then again the same day. So I answered, ready to yell at some scammer. A girl on the other side introduces herself and just says that she thinks I might be her father. That was the first thing she said. Hi, my name is Jane and I think you might be my father. Fake name. Obviously I told her I don't have any children and that she has the wrong number. But then she drops a name I haven't heard in, you guessed it, 18 years. Back around that time, I was in the US for a year on a job exchange with our sister company. I met a woman there and we hooked up over maybe a few months. I remember buying condoms after meeting her, but I can't remember if we used them every time. Anyway, I gave her my non-US number, but never heard from her again. The girl on the phone asks me if my name is OP, and I freak out and almost hang up on her. She tells me more about her mother, and I just sit there like an idiot. She's found my name and number in her mother's diary, and now, as she turned 18, she wanted to contact me. She lives with her relatives now, since her mother is unable to take care of herself for some reason. I still don't know the details there. She asked me if I'd be willing to do an ancestry DNA test, and even offered to pay for it. She ends by saying I should think about it, and asks if she can call me again. I just say, sure, and we hang up. I swear I was about to faint right there and then. The whole conversation lasted only like 5 minutes. I ended up taking the test, and we talk a few more times. The test took forever, but yesterday she sent me a screenshot of her profile, matching 50% to mine. I mean, that's just it, right? We haven't spoken since, just messaged some. I lied and told her I've been busy and we'll talk later, which now makes me feel like an ass. Up until this point, I've kept it together, holding on to the thought that I'm probably not the dad, but now I can't deny it. It's probably been half my life since I last cried. I haven't told anyone this. I was kinda hoping the DNA test would come back negative and then I wouldn't have to. How to even break this to my family? I just know they'll all want her number so they can call her, and then they would start flying over to see her or bringing her here. They're really pushy like that. My mom is going to freak out. I don't see my family more than a few times a year, but we all get together during Easter. Should I do it then with all of them at once, or one at a time? I have a picture of Jane, but not much more info than what I've written here. I'm the youngest sibling, and now I suddenly have the oldest of the cousins in the next generation. And I never wanted kids at all. I just don't like them and hate being tied up. Even had a vasectomy since then. And that's the easy part. The real problem is what to say to Jane. Can some sane person give me an example of what to say? I've promised to call her tomorrow. Has anyone discovered they have an unknown child? If so, what did you do? How did it go? How did you connect? What happened when you met for the first time? What did your family say? I'm a bit embarrassed by this, but is there any risk of me having to pay child support retroactively? I can probably afford it, but I don't really want to. TLDR, got contacted by a young girl claiming to be my daughter. DNA later confirmed. Need help on how to proceed and what to say to her and my family. And then he edits to add, I apologise for the abomination of a text above. I blame the alcohol. Some seem to have the impression that I and/or my family are wealthy. This is not so. I wrote in a comment that knowing my family, they would probably rent a private jet and fly her here. That was a joke commenting on what they would want to do, not what they would do. No, I'm not wealthy either. In the post I wrote, I can probably afford it, but I don't really want to, and I meant that I'd hate to suddenly have something like 10% of my savings left overnight. Just guessing here, no idea what the actual sum would have been. I'm sure anybody here would consider that a factor. Anyway, someone said that the limit is 3 years back. I didn't know that. I can be a butthole sometimes, but I'm not some monster. The money question was a question, not the question. Yes, I have had my number for a long time, never had a reason to change it. We had our first video call today, and it was a long conversation. I had a list of things to bring up, mostly from suggestions here, so ever thankful for that. Most of it was quite personal for both of us, so I won't write it here, but it boils down to that we both want to continue to stay in touch and get to know each other. We also want to meet at some point, even if we don't know when yet. Her family knows of me, and they will join a call in the future so I can speak to them as well. I'll hold off on telling my family for a while, but I will probably tell them one at a time. Oh, it sounds like people were a little bit harsh on him there because of what he mentioned about the money. But I think it just came across the wrong way. It doesn't sound like he would resent the fact that, he should take some responsibility for Jane. It's more that, that coming out of the blue would be a pretty big lump sum after 18 years, if that was how it worked. And that could financially ruin someone. He does seem concerned about what his family's going to think, but he doesn't mention a wife or anybody like that or, any other children. So it seems more like he's just worried about what his mother and people like that are going to think. Which at the end of the day, it's going to be big news for them, but it's not quite as significant as if he had to broach it with, a wife or existing children. Really, his main problems are going to be just a case of communicating, dealing with the news, processing it, and then just getting to know his daughter. Of course, that's going to be incredibly strange for anybody, and it probably took a lot of courage for Jane to make that call. But hopefully they'll be able to navigate the awkwardness and begin to develop a good relationship. So we have an update from several months later, which comes from August the 1st, 2024, so it's very recent. Here he says, "Hello all. A while back I made a post asking for advice. Back then I just had it confirmed by DNA that I had a daughter I never knew about. I called her Jane in the other post, so I will here too. Jane is the result of me hooking up with a woman while I was working in the US. It was really interesting to read about others' experiences in the comments and DMs. It's crazy what DNA tests have done in recent times. Some wrote that Jane is probably just a kid looking for her roots, and you are absolutely right. I've been getting a steady stream of DMs since my last post. Most have been nice, just asking for an update. Then there were the absolute nutcases who can't read and told me to drown myself. Hi to you too." Jane and I continued to talk after my last post, mostly about her life, her mother, the family trees, etc. I never thought I would connect with her like I did. She's a very intelligent and mature young woman. My family knows now, and it went better than expected. Mom and sister still went a bit apeshit, but Dad knocked them out with a large club he always carries with him. To the nutcases, no, that last bit didn't actually happen. Funny thing, my brother-in-law actually distracted Mom by reminding her that she's made sweaters for all the other grandkids, but now she's way behind on one. All of them understandably want to call her, but my daughter, yes, it's pretty cool to be able to say that, and I had already planned to have that call the following day. And it went really well. We made introductions, explained everything that had happened, and that we planned for me to meet her by myself before anything. And guess what? We did meet. I flew over for a 10-day stay, since I'm on leave and she's working during the summer. That way we could hang out in the evenings and weekend, and I could go full tourist during the day. It was surreal from the start. I landed at the very same airport I left from almost 2 decades ago, and she was there to meet me, together with her aunt. I can't describe with words what it was like to hug her for the first time. I'd seen her many times in video calls, but she was just so beautiful in real life, I started crying. I met so many people in the first couple of days, I can't remember the names of half of them. I gave her the sweater from my mother, a hand-drawn family tree from my niece, and a gift I made myself, but I won't tell what that one was. While I still don't agree with the Georgia weather, I had a blast during the days just walking around town. I went to Jane's workplace almost every day and pretended to be a regular customer. We had lunch and dinners either alone or with the rest of her mother's side of the family. All of them were so nice and welcoming to me. I visited their house every day, but chose to stay at a hotel since I didn't want to be a bother or impose myself too hard on Jane's life. Obviously, Jane and I talked a lot about anything and everything, but mostly about her upbringing and her mother. I mentioned in the previous post that her mother wasn't able to care for Jane. I didn't press that subject much at first, but it was unavoidable after a while. I won't get into all the details, but her mother is sick and has lost some cognitive functions. She recognises Jane and some family members well enough, others not so much. We went to visit the facility where she lives, and Jane introduced me by name and not as her father. She sadly didn't recognise me, so I stayed in the background for the remainder of our stay. Seeing a woman not much older than myself in such a state was a sombre experience. So yeah, that was me rambling a bit about what happened after my last post. There was obviously a lot more, but most of it is deeply personal and emotional, and I won't go through it here. I'm back home, and we're keeping communications open. I'm definitely going to fly Jane over here at some point when life allows it, but other than that, we have no specific plans for the future. Hope you all have a nice day. Aw, it really sounds like that went about as well as you could expect it to. Both families were completely supportive of them meeting up and, getting to know each other properly. And it sounds like more than anything, his own family are just excited for Jane to join them. I was also glad to hear that the reason her mother couldn't look after her was, not saying it's a good thing that she was sick, but that it wasn't anything kind of, like drugs or psychiatric problems that would have been even more traumatizing for Jane. It seems like she has a nice family that have been raising her, and in general, getting in touch with her dad is going to end up being a positive change in her life. But what do you guys think about this story? How would you react if you found out that you had a long-lost 18-year-old child? Let me know down in the comments. This is a story that was originally posted in r/2 hot takes by user I don't have ADHD. And the title is, My husband, 25 male, has asked to start going on regular dates with me, 26 female, again, and I'm a little sad. And she begins. My husband John, fake name, and I have been married for over 2 years, and dated for about 3 years before that. Overall, we have a generally healthy relationship with good communication. When we first got married, we used to go on lots of dates. Not necessarily anything big, sometimes just coffee or a drive, but we went out of our way to get out of the house together for quality time. As time has passed, I've taken on more freelance work, keeping me busier, and he's started saying that he's just too tired or doesn't feel like getting ready to go out after work or on his days off. Up until now, I haven't had an issue with that. He does work a lot, and I don't blame him at all. But here's where things have changed. A couple of months ago, he got really interested in digital marketing, basically selling products online. He bought an expensive course to help him learn, and has started trying to consistently post 3 times a day in order to build a following on a new Instagram account. So he's really putting a lot of work into this. I'm not holding my breath that it will work out for several reasons that I won't get into here, unless you want them, but I've never discouraged him from doing it. When he gets stressed, I encourage him. I tell him often that I'm proud of all his hard work. I am, etc. I only mention that to say that I'm not against him trying this out, and I haven't put him down for it, ever. But this is why I've gotten a little sad. Last week we went out on a cute date after he got off work on Saturday, and I loved it. We laughed and talked and generally had a great time, like those first dates after getting married. While we were on the date, I had an idea for a cute reel that took maybe 5 minutes to record, and then I put my phone away for the rest of the time. When we got home, I created and posted the reel, adding him as a collaborator with his new digital marketing Instagram account. At his request. I guess he's gotten advice to post real life things, not just videos trying to sell. No biggie, I didn't mind. Well, since I already have a following, small but bigger than his, that reel did better than any of the other ones on his account. Great, we both thought. But now he's asked to go on a small date every Saturday. At first I was so happy. I'd love to get back to our regular dates. But then he said it would be so that we could get content for his page. He asked if I could be a collaborator on all or most of the posts, but if he could post them himself so he gets the credit for the engagement. I guess all the views, likes, etc. don't actually bump his page analytics since I was the one who created the post. I'm feeling hurt because for over a year he hasn't shown much interest in taking me out. Now all of a sudden, because he needs content and saw how I could help his view count go up, he wants to go on dates. I guess I'm just feeling used and like I'm not any kind of priority. I feel like the dates won't even count as actual dates because he's not asking to go out to spend time with me. I do want to reiterate that I'm not opposed to him doing this side job, and I'm not even opposed to helping him or collaborating on posts, though I'd prefer not to do it every week. I'm actually really happy, whether or not it works out as a moneymaker, that he's just putting a lot of effort into something that excites him. I haven't seen him this into anything, maybe ever. I'm asking for advice because I don't know if I should bring this up to him or not, and if I do, what should I say? The last thing I want to do is make him feel bad or discourage him in his new endeavour. Should I be grateful to be going on dates again? Am I being selfish? Thanks for any and all advice, and sorry if this is very long. If this could be posted to the sub, I'm open to suggestions. I couldn't post a relationship advice because it has a yes or no question, lol. Edit. Because so many people are hung up on the double standard of me making content on the date but not wanting him to, I just want to clarify that I'm not a content creator by any means. I asked if he wanted to do this reel and he said yes. And it's not a regular thing as I don't post much. To me, the difference here is that the whole point of these dates moving forward will be to get content, and for him it will be work, whereas for me it was just a fun thing for us. Maybe this doesn't make a difference, but that's just how I see it in my head. Now, this one I kind of feel like she is valid in feeling like the dates aren't being done for the reasons that they were in the past, and that is going to feel kind of sad. But from the husband's perspective, it might even just feel like a win-win. It's something that they can do together. That involves them going out together more, but it also helps him achieve some goals that he's working towards, which otherwise he'd be doing stuff for on his own and taking even more time away from, spending time with her. So I think she needs to talk to him about what she's thinking on this, because it really probably hasn't occurred to him that she might see things this way. And when they've discussed it, it could be, something like they can arrange to limit the reel making time to, the first 20 minutes of their date, and then just spend the rest of it as having quality time together. I mean, this digital marketing thing is something that he's really passionate about at the moment, so if they're going out on dates together and just talking about life in general, it's probably going to be a topic that they're going to be discussing anyway. And it seems like she's quite supportive of him for being passionate about it. So if they're discussing it anyway, talking about ideas and things like that, keeping just a part of the date for making some content, shouldn't really be a problem. But for them to kind of do this in a way that makes her feel comfortable and brings her the happiness that going out on dates with your partner should, she really needs to talk it over with him. There are some relevant comments for this one. Before we get to the update, Caroline Sakura says, how about you tell him how you feel and that a date is a date and reels are for work. If he wants to go on dates just to get views, those can be only 1 in 5 dates if you're comfortable with even that. Communicate. The Ring says communication is key. You could talk to him and, with the idea above, even frame that date as a work date. If you're on board and comfortable, maybe keep the Saturdays as your special dates and then whatever day lines up other than that to make reels together. If you generally don't like the idea, then just tell him that as well. Away Grapefruit 4297 says, so he is in an MLM and he admitted that his wanting to go out with you is to support his cultish business rather than because he values the time. That hurts. I get it. I'm sorry. I do want to say that these companies, opportunities, MLMs are very scripted, high pressure, and designed to make people think if they fail, they're at fault, despite the actual setup being a massive reason for the failure. They literally borrow cult tactics in order to prey on people. I think you should talk about your feelings, but I also think you should tread lightly, because the whole system is designed for him to be defensive if you bring up reason. It's part of the gig. Hugs, I'm sorry. I'm not sure about that, because while I do agree that that's true of multi-level marketing schemes and such things, we don't know for sure that's what he's doing. All she said was digital marketing on Instagram, and so it could be that he's doing something like affiliate marketing, which is a whole different kettle of fish. He is possibly just trying to become some kind of influencer rather than shilling products for an MLM. So we'd need to know more information before jumping to these conclusions. And speaking of more information, there is an update from 10 days later, where OP says, so first of all, thank you to the vast majority of you who were logical and kind, and screw the people who immediately jumped to bashing women. In 2024? Really? Anyways, here's what I ended up doing. Many of the comments said the best thing to do was probably just take the win and find the good in my situation, but if it's really bothering me, to bring it up to John. I honestly didn't want to, but I didn't want to be upset on every date either, so I decided to give it a trial run and see how I felt after. I waited 2 weeks to make a decision and chose to go ahead and mention it to him. For those of you who think I'm some dramatic witch whose husband could never do enough to make her happy, I told him I was sure how I felt wasn't how he intended to come across, but then explained what I'd been thinking. Sure enough, as many of you said, he was just killing two birds with one stone. I told him I was totally fine creating content on our dates, but I just didn't want to feel like that was why we were on a date. He said that he understood and would be careful about it, and that if I was bothered or wanted to have a no-content date, to just let him know. So that's the good part. The next part was a little tougher. Per the advice of a couple of you with either digital marketing or MLM experience, I had the tough pyramid scheme talk. I told him before, during and after this conversation that no matter what he chooses to do, I will support him and help him, but I also explained to him a few things. How the marketing was misleading, how most people lose money instead of making it, how they will keep trying to get him to spend more money to make it work, etc. I also suggested that he track his hours of learning, content creating and posting, so that even if he does start making sales, he can decide if the time is worth the payout. I probably mentioned other things as well, but I don't remember what, if so. I've always been very anti-MLM, and I like to think I know a lot about it, so I just tried to give him all the basic info in a kind way. After all that, I told him that if he wanted to keep trying, I was for it, as long as he doesn't invest any more money before he makes some. I also told him I was so proud of all the work he put into his side hustle so far, and how I loved that he was excited about it, how he's been getting up early to work out because of it. He will record parts of his run, stretches, etc., but actually does a full workout or run. And I love how it's energized him. Understandably, he was a little sad and quiet, but he understood everything and wasn't mad at all. This was all last night, and he was totally back to normal before bed. And he's continued posting today, so I guess I didn't hurt his feelings or discourage him like I thought I might. That's the whole reason I waited so long, but I guess it would have been fine all along. I'm looking forward to our weekly dates, and to the fact that we'll be able to look back and remember them all, since we will have videos from each one. Again, grateful to all of you for your kind words, and I'm happy to answer comments or questions. Just be nice, for goodness sake. So potentially it was more like an MLM type thing. Well, maybe if, you had the talk with him and it still didn't dissuade him from being part of something like that, when it does inevitably, not pay off, he could be persuaded to kind of leverage the skills he's learned about digital marketing to do something that isn't part of an MLM scheme. So his experience making content and trying to build a following may come in handy for something a bit more serious in the future. But those scams do have a way of getting people fired up, unfortunately. Still, the whole talk seemed to have gone as well as can be expected, and it does sound like he was open to, making the dates something that she's a bit more excited about. So that problem, at least, does seem to have been resolved. In the comments, Sauls Walker says, "Sounds like that went about as well as it realistically could go." Gliding to Life says, "I think that you did as good a job as could be done. MLM schemes are designed to operate as a cult. They require full commitment, discourage any questions or concerns, and work by pulling others into the scheme. You addressed it logically, expressed support for him as your partner, but also established some boundaries to use data to assess progress and next steps. At this point, all you can do is protect your joint finances and make sure he doesn't use the rent or 401k money to fund his side hustle. You might want to set up some alerts on your joint accounts so that he doesn't take any actions without your knowledge, and also put identity monitoring in place so that if he opens up new accounts, credit cards or otherwise, then you will be alerted. Lots of people have been caught in such activities, and it becomes similar to a gambling addiction." Yeah, I often find with comments like that, I feel like they're being super dramatic and, oh, the guy advertised some supplements on his Instagram, the next thing you know, he's committing fraud and basically ruining your life. But I guess people wouldn't give that kind of advice if that kind of thing didn't happen. I really don't know why MLMs are still even legal, but it is what it is, I guess. Still, what do you guys think about this story? How would you feel about going on dates with your partner if you knew they were partially being done so that they would have content for their side hustle? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for listening to these stories. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for more. And please let me know what you think of this video's stories down below.